Today we are back at the Cline Agri Farm to learn about our local food economy. We'll be looking about the ripple effects of agricultural production, about supply, demands, and prices, about the local markets we have here, and finally how we can all get involved in different farms and markets nearby. In order to understand the ripple effects of agricultural production within the economy, let's start with a seed. A farmer will plant a seed that grows into a plant. Once the crop is ready to be harvested, it is either used or sold in its raw form or processed into a secondary product. Farmers will earn money by selling their goods and create jobs through this constant production and client demand. Earning money and creating jobs is the foundation of an economy. The exchange of goods, such as the crop that the farmer harvested, is done at the marketplace. It is where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods. Markets can be online or in person. Can you think of any examples of markets? Well, farmers' markets are a great example. They can happen during specific seasons or all year round. Although markets can always change, several of these markets have existed for many years. They are concentrated around central and south Nanaimo for the most part. So we know that we have a fair amount of in-person markets, farmers markets that is, but what about those online markets? Do they exist here? Well, yes, they do. And more people are doing much more e-commerce online. We have an online marketplace out of Gabriola, and we have one out of Nanaimo as well. Many grocery stores in our area are either provincial or island-wide. Think of Country Grocer or Thrifty Foods or Save On Foods. You can typically find an area within each grocery store that has a local section or little tags under the different products to say that it's from our area. When agricultural goods and services are exchanged in a marketplace, it has ripple effects for the local economy. When it's spent locally, it benefits the local economy as that money stays here and can then be recirculated. For example, let's say John the Blueberry farm sells his berries to local customers. John then has money and he is able to recirculate it, and maybe John needs some furniture and so he goes to a local furniture shop, and then by way that furniture shop owner has money that he then recirculates into the economy, and maybe it's a hot summer's day and he's craving an ice cream cone. So supply and demand also impact the agricultural economy. Supply is the quantity of something within the market, whereas demand is the desire for that product. Both supply and demand affect the price. The price of food is consistently increasing. Factors that may affect the supply, demand, or price of goods and services include the price of fuel, access to water, or new information available to the public. Water, one of our limiting factors. We have learned about the local agricultural economy through the different markets we have here, but markets are also global. British Columbia is one of the world's largest blueberry exporting countries in all the world. In fact, BC is the largest grower of high bush blueberries in Canada and ranks as one of the top 10 producers in the world. BC grows about 75 Stanley Parks worth of high bush blueberries. I'm sure you've seen blueberries in town, but did you know that 70% of BC blueberries are exported to those other markets? They sure are tasty, so I'm not surprised so many people want them. I'd previously mentioned that access to new information can affect the demand, supply, price of a product, and that is exactly what happened with blueberries. When people started finding out about the great health benefits such as antioxidants, the demand rose. If we reflect back to the idea of the farmer planting the one seed, it becoming a crop, being harvested and sold, well, BC employs over 10,000 people to harvest and sell blueberries annually. Today, we're lucky to be joined by local blueberry farmers Joy and John to learn more about the blueberries' role in the marketplace and how we can take care of this plant and use those skills for other plants too.
We started looking around at farms, and I thought it would be interesting to have a medical clinic on a farm. And so we bought this farm and moved the medical clinic onto the farm. And suddenly we were farmers.
Blueberry farmers.
What we have done is we've partnered with other groups in town, because this is 47 acres, a lot of land to manage. Our farming activity is mainly growing blueberries. 4 acres of blueberries out here, and it's mainly Duke high bush variety of blueberries.
So what do you enjoy, or what do you find easy about cultivating blueberries?
The most enjoyable thing about blueberries is picking and eating them. That's the most enjoyable. It's a lot of exercise, enforced exercise.
And is there anything that you've faced that's more challenging?
It's a really intense season. It's short, like the actual picking and selling season is very intense. But it's usually for about a month.
Okay.
But it's long, long days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the preparation. That's the hard work. And if you don't do it and do it well, and several things well, then you can have a crop failure like we did last year.
Yeah.
You know, the first season we picked 4,000 pounds and sold. Last year it was 70 pounds. Disaster.
Can I just ask what the problem was last year, just while we're on the topic?
It was 2 or 3 things. It was the weather. It wasn't hot enough for the berries to ripen when they needed to. And we had someone do pruning for us that didn't know what they were doing, and we didn't know that they didn't know what they were doing. And then the starlings.
There was a flock of about 300 starlings,
Yes.
and you just see them descend on the field and gorge themselves, and not much you could do about it.
That one little owl doesn't work?
No, it doesn't. The one thing I told the previous owner is that we would never spray herbicides. And he said, well, you're going to have trouble with weeds. And he was right. So,
But there's other ways to deal with weeds.
fairly simple way is to put down wood chips around the base of the blueberries.
Mulch. That could be the word of the day.
It's interesting that just doing that one thing improved soil conditions so much, because wood chips, they act like a new skin on top of the soil. You know, if we don't have skin, then organisms get in that shouldn't get into us. We lose fluid and so on. If it's a hot, sunny day, the temperature of the soil will drop 80%, just having wood chips on. It improves the microbiome or ecosystem of the soil tremendously. About 2 months after putting these wood chips down, if you just peel them back with your hand, you get into beautiful black soil, and you can see a layer of fungus called the mycelial layer. And the mycelia do great things for the soil. It's actually the internet of the soil, for plants communicate with each other. We purchased a green laser, and it's attached on the side of the barn, and it continuously pans over the field. And birds, they see the color green more than any other color. And so when they're in the field and they see this green coming towards them, they perceive it as a physical object. So the birds will take off, and once a few birds take off, then the whole flock will. So our crop this year has just been unbelievable. I think we've surpassed now the 6,000 pounds.
We haven't had time to calculate.
That's great.
How many have you
Yeah.
picked? I don't know.
So you've really shifted, and you're really exhibiting forms of sustainable agriculture with your mulching and with your laser, so you don't have to use other chemicals, for example, or
That's
other
right.
methods.
The only thing we do is fertilize, but other than that,
Yeah.
nothing added. So.
Blueberries, they are counted as a superfood. Like they're superfood for the brain, you know, as you say, the antioxidants and all the flavonoids.
Just like the blueberry plant, we in our region, we have a lot of fruit trees, and it's because in the past, if we look closer to history, a lot of the coal miners were allotted 5-acre parcels of land in order to support themselves while they worked. And supporting themselves meant growing their own food. Thus, there are remnants of fruit trees, for example, within the area. So today, I invite you to go on a scavenger hunt yourself. Can you find apple trees? What about pear trees? Maybe some plum trees, cherry trees, and fig trees. Now, these all have different leaves, and so pay attention to how they differ from each other and how the fruits differ from each other. Once you find one of these trees, why not go back to it and see how it changes throughout the season? You can kind of have a buddy tree, if you will, and see how it changes. Maybe you'll notice different types of animals that coexist with it, like birds in the trees. And maybe you can even mulch it if you have one on your property, as that's a very great skill that can be applied to so many plants to, again, regulate that temperature, keep the moisture in, and prevent a lot of weeds from developing. So thanks so much for being a part of this lesson with us. We learned a lot of things about the agricultural production in our local area and how it affects the food economy. We went over the ripple effects of how one thing can affect the other things, such as a farmer who plants a seed and then sells it and other people recirculate that money. We learned about supply and demand and how maybe if there's more of something, then it might be a lower price, for example. And we also learned about the many farmers markets that we have in person that we can visit or also interact with online. And then we finally learned about mulching and how good it is to keep in the water and protect from weeds. It kind of reduces maintenance. And then we learned about a handful of different perennial fruit trees that we have in the area. So I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something and you can share it with others and get mulching.